Dante Alston is the co-founder of HashAxis. Is that you, Dante?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Oh, hello. Thank you for coming. So I guess we have everybody on board. So we have with us today Tom Screen of Everywhere in the UK, our
Hello.
co-host. We have Hashpack Wallet, which is the integrator for Hash Access. I have to get all these hashes right. So how are you, Jacob?
Hi, yeah, doing great, thank you. How are things?
Great. And then we have Don Tabot, who's the with us from the HBAR Foundation.
Hey, everybody.
And then we have Justin Atwell, who is an advocate for the Hedera. And of course, then our main event is Dante Alston, the co-founder of HashAxis. So we'll start with you, Dante. Would you like to, for those of us who don't know HashAxis, or we haven't talked to you yet, would you like to introduce yourself to the community, Dante?
Sure. Yeah. So my background is just in development. And I saw the need for a NFT marketplace that was Hedera driven. I feel Hedera overall is just superior technology to Ethereum, not to bash any other projects. We know these are all new technologies and things are moving very quickly. But as a developer, if you look at the underlying architecture of these systems, it's a pretty clear case for Hedera. And so I felt like, well, if that's the case, the market will eventually catch on for the non-developers. They will eventually figure that out. And if OpenSea doesn't support Hedera, then there's going to be a significant gap in the marketplace. And we're here to fill that gap.
Well, with the activity that I've been seeing on your site, I love the way your site filters things. And, so many people are coming to your site. It's becoming very popular. So congratulations on your launch.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we're still this is actually our first public beta. There's inevitably going to be some bugs that we have to sort of iron out, but we can say that overwhelmingly the results have been positive. The beta is working very well. We hope to be stable very soon, and we also hope to enable that secondary market that everyone is dying for, myself included. Because I know as a collector of NFTs, there may be some part of you that views them as not just a great collectible, but also as a great asset to be able to resell later. So feel free to use the primary market for now, but just know that a secondary market will come. I know there's also NFT.com on the way, which we're not affiliated with, but there will be an openness to the community and to the NFTs that are produced through HashAxis. So there's nothing that would prevent them from being compatible with other marketplaces in the future when you're ready to start reselling and trading. So feel free to go on there and collect, while you're early, and maybe you'll be able to resell them for profit later if that's your goal, or if you're just a collector, feel free to just use the primary marketplace for now.
Well, what you just said with beta testing is something that I wanted to discuss also, because the community needs to understand hard launches and soft launches and beta testing. And I wonder, Don, if you can speak to that a little bit from your knowledge base.
One of the things that's been really exciting about the NFT community that we've seen in the last couple of weeks is that we've really seen a very rapid pace of innovation in terms of feature improvement. So whether it was kind of ironing out bugs around the community donation event, seeing how quickly the Hashpack team has been delivering on new features. And of course, I think seeing HashAxis come to market has been really exciting, primarily that quick pace of innovation. So I like that idea of, get it to community early, get testing, get feedback, and improve. And I think it's a really good signal of how strong this community is becoming in the NFT space around issuance tools, marketplace tools, etc. I know a number of community members are also looking at how to make that tooling more accessible for testing, for integration. I know the Galaxy team is open sourcing some of their framework. I certainly know the Hashgraph Punks community is looking at how they can make their tooling available to help these types of marketplaces. So, I mean, the beauty of this space is the pace of innovation. And I think, HashAxis is another great demonstration of that.
Yes, and the collaboration of the community is also what really makes me proud of being part of the community. Hashpack, you're integrating with HashAxis. Would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we're actually working on something called Hash Connect, which is our answer to interconnectivity really on Hedera. So if anybody's familiar with MetaMask on Ethereum or Phantom on Solana, it's a similar concept where everyone will be able to securely interact with Hedera dApps and use Hashpack to approve transactions while keeping your private keys safe and secure. So yeah, HashAxis is just one of the products out there that's currently testing our closed beta of Hash Connect. But yeah, it's essentially a transaction signing protocol that allows these MetaMask type interactions between wallets and dApps on Hedera.
So HashAxis is you're currently using the Connect?
It's not currently live, but ultimately our goal is to integrate with Hash Connect. Yes, the way the beta works right now is a little bit cumbersome. We definitely hear the feedback from the community that they don't want to have to type in their account numbers. They don't want to have to type in memos, that sort of thing. But the option was essentially, do you not deliver any product to market at all because you're waiting on a tool that doesn't exist yet? Or do you get out there and get the ball rolling and hopefully the right tools will come? And Hashpack was just happened to be one of the first to respond to that need in the market. As other wallets come online, we hope to be able to integrate them as well. But right now, I think Hashpack's solution is just a little bit further along than the rest, and more closely integrated with what we're doing already. So yeah, the goal is definitely to support Hash Connect so that you guys can trade NFTs more securely, in a more trustless fashion. Because I know the trust driven fashion, where you sort of send off your H bar and you hope that you receive your NFT in return, is a little bit frowned upon. But because, again, the tools didn't exist at the time to do a secure trade, we just went out there with what we had. And we appreciate the trust of the community, and we won't squander that trust. But ultimately, the goal is to move away from that trust-driven system and into a trustless system where you see exactly what you're going to get in return on a transaction as you commit that transaction.
I'd love to ask a question if it's okay, just as it's really piqued my interest. Obviously, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen just an incredible number of different collections start to emerge on the ecosystem, different collectibles, different assets, things like that. So I'd love just from some of yourselves on the HashAxis team and the other speakers here, just to get your sense of like what are some of those good positive indicators of a good collection? What makes it exciting? What makes you see it, be something you want to more easily support and ultimately drive demand for?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And there's been a lot of confusion in the community because some of the existing tools out there were minting fungible tokens instead of non-fungible tokens. And the problem that created is people sort of got this idea that, okay, if I want to do a limited edition of 10, let's say, of the same item, well, I should be able to just set it once or mint it once rather, and set the supply to 10, and then there will be 10 of that item. And that is a route for creating, what is essentially going to be a fungible token. On Hedera with non-fungible tokens, basically they first go into a collection. And so even if you have just a one of one, you're going to need to create a collection token to hold that one of one. Even if you have multiple editions of the same item, it would be best to put them all in the same collection, even if you have to mint them multiple times. So I'll give you an example that uses US presidents. There's 46 U.S. presidents, right? So maybe your collection is U.S. president's collection. You're going to paint personally each president. You're going to paint 1 through 46, and there's going to be one of each president. You could do that, or you could say, well, I just want it to be the Barack Obama collection, and I want it to be 50 of the same painting of Barack Obama. Either way, that needs to go into a collection so that it can be interrelated. And either way, all of those NFTs are still non-fungible, right? They're not fungible tokens that have been duplicated. And that's the way our system is set up.
Well, if Obama's taken, then dibs Millard Fillmore from that collection. Well, I guess just as follow up, and I'm sure Justin can keep us honest here. So is that, my understanding is like the Hedera token service establishes a token ID that can then be used and tied to the creation of unique serial numbers per item. So is it that top line topic ID that's kind of the collection association you're referring to? Great.
That's exactly correct. And that's why each token inside of the collection is actually still a non-fungible token itself, right? So even if someone sets the max supply on their collection to 10, and then they proceed to mint the same exact image 10 times, those will still go into non-fungible tokens because each one will be assigned its own unique serial number. So you'll be able to differentiate the children of the parent token, as we call them, and that way you can always see, okay, if this gets minted outside of this collection, then it's probably a fake, right? If someone took that same picture and minted it outside of that collection, you'd be able to tell very easily by the token ID that this was not from the original collection, and this is something that someone has inappropriately taken and reminted.
Is that why you established a flag system?
Yeah, so the flagging system, we sort of had to rush and find a solution for that. Obviously, there's been a lot of I guess polarization around what is a derivative work, what's fair use, et cetera, et cetera. I think people may want to go out and look up, the deeper definitions on these things, because you can't necessarily be selling something for a profit and have all the same rights that you would if you were doing a parody, for example, right? So you could do a parody of Nike and use the Nike logo and be just fine. But if you want to take the Nike logo and put it on something and then sell it, well, now you've exited the realm of fair use. And so we have to be very careful about that, because I know none of you want to be subject to lawsuits, obviously. And, these account IDs are uniquely identifiable to you. What I would recommend is everyone to just create original content. And if you're going to do a derivative work, make sure you be artistic enough that no one's going to mistake it for something fraudulent. So we developed a community flagging system, though, because we don't want to be the police, judge, and executioner of anyone's project. We're going to leave the majority of that to the community itself. Obviously, if law enforcement or we get some sort of letter from a lawyer, we'll address that on a case-by-case basis. But overall, we're going to leave these types of policing to the community itself, because this is ultimately what you guys have been asking for. You said you don't want any gatekeepers. You don't want a marketplace that's going to be able to restrict what you can mint, who can mint, do content review. To be frank, we don't even have the staff to do content review. If a company like Facebook, for example, has hundreds of people who sit there and watch everything that you upload. We don't have the capacity to do that. So we're really relying on you guys to be your own police and do the right thing and be responsible. The flagging system will allow you, when it rolls out, to, if you think something's a little bit off about an NFT, you can hit that flag. And if enough consensus builds around that NFT being flagged, we'll go ahead and issue an official warning label. That still won't delete it. That won't prevent anyone from buying it. But that will be a fair warning to buyers, which will probably discourage it from being sold. And so that removes the monetary incentive for people to go out there and steal other people's work.
Boy, I gotta say, the idea of a protocol for establishing consensus on flagged content sure seems like what could be a great Hedera improvement proposal.
Absolutely, I agree.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I presume as well, and I don't want to be sort of controversial, but I've seen a few tweets that people have put out this week about unique content and specifically referencing content that's been, so not necessarily logos. I think that's a fair point where, obviously, like the Nike logo, and there's obviously standard copyright laws and things that still apply in any space. But where there's been comments around like different collections that have been bought across some different chains, and I know early on, like last year, there was some controversy around a couple of different projects where people had thought that these projects had been bought across some other chains. And I guess that applies to that as well. But are you going to? I suppose the danger, if there is any, is that we need to make sure that there's also some nuance in that, because I know that there was a specific example where a certain collection had been started to have been minted on, say, the Solana chain, and then that particular artist had migrated over to Hedera, and and continued the collection on there and stopped minting on Solana. So, I guess we need to take care with that as well.
I'm curious on that, Tom. Just how you think about kind of the multi-chain NFT collections. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What falls in which category? I'm curious of your all's thoughts there.
I guess I don't mind, really. I suppose, to an extent, I think it's probably inevitable that, these collections are going to come across some other chains, and hopefully I'm being optimistic about it. Artists and creators are going to see the benefits of working on Hedera, if not the speed and then the cost and the security and hopefully the community and everything else, and will want to come and bring across. And I think, we perhaps as a community also need to just bear that in mind, that they can, that we welcome those people, and we're not just sort of like pushing them out because they might have started to mint some things on another chain, or at least give them the opportunity to sort of explain that.
Yeah, our thought on it is Hashport, and I don't think they're on here, but Hashport will probably be the solution that we're looking for, where if you started your collection, your collection on maybe Ethereum, you'll be able to port over however many are unminted in that collection's max supply, whatever it was intended to be. And we don't have any issue with that. What we would frown upon is reminting the same thing, right? And something that you may have called a one of one, you called it a one of one on Ethereum, but now you want it to be a one of one on Hedera. We would much prefer to see you port that over, as opposed to reminting it and devaluing the initial buyer's investment. So that's what we're going to be looking for. And we're sensitive to the fact that those tools don't exist yet. And you guys are trying to get your artwork out there as fast as possible. But for the longevity of it, if you want your project to be one of the ones that people diamond hand, then you got to be a little bit careful about how you go about minting and be selective about how you distribute your work. If you have already started, feel free to just make a new collection and say, okay, I'm not minting anymore into that collection anymore. That will decrease the supply, right, on Ethereum. That will be good for the current holders on Ethereum who prefer to stay on Ethereum. And you can start making new and original artwork on Hedera. And you guys are all very creative, and girls, very creative. So I'm sure you can continue to pump out new and fresh ideas.
Well, I had a question for you, though, Dante, because the verbiage on your website says exclusive digital assets. So does that connote to me that you don't want people that are putting NFTs on your platform minting in other platforms?
Yeah, I think, and we might, thank you for your feedback on that. We might revisit it if that's the impression that it's given. But we were trying to communicate that what you're minting, because of the prevalence of OpenSea and the prevalence of Ethereum, we didn't want people to think that what they're minting right now, they can easily go and take it to OpenSea. Like they can mint over here for $1, and get around the $100 worth of gas fees if they tried to mint on Ethereum and OpenSea, and then take that product over to OpenSea. So the reason we included exclusive in the tagline was so that people would understand the only ecosystem that you're capable of existing in right now is the Hedera ecosystem. But again, as tools like Hashport come online, it may not be that exclusive tag is relevant anymore.
Thank you for clearing that up, because sometimes, we are in such a development stage and beta stage that I think, as you've mentioned a couple of times, Dante, we're inventing it as we go along, and that's the thing I want to, let the community know, that as we get bumps in the road, we should embrace the ability to change and fix things and grow with the platform, rather than create any FUD about a platform.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I think as a developer myself, and you trying to put out software, it's never going to be 100%. And I think the important thing is that if we find any issues, that we can report them, and if we've got any concerns, that we can raise them. But we just we let the bugs be at some point, and we'll move past them.
It is definitely, there are always going to be bugs in software, and to just be knowledgeable and communicate with developers of whatever platform it is, whether it's HashAxis or HashPack or any of the other projects on Hedera. That's the way to go, rather than some other ways to go.
And I've seen some great feedback. I don't want to make don't want to point any fingers, but I've been looking obviously at the new HashPack facilities, being able to view the NFTs. That's been fantastic. I had a couple of issues myself. I went onto the Discord forum. And I could already see that the problems have already been reported in the support channel. So it's great to see that the communities are implementing their own processes for dealing with these support issues, and that seems to be working. So that's great.
Justin, do you have any input on how to deal with beta sites, and how the community can better serve the creators of different platforms?
Yeah, I think just in general, just understand that everybody's trying the best they can to release good software, and make sure that, if as far as security goes and keys, just make sure never, ever to ever do anything with them. And if you abide by those rules, then try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but definitely do privately raise awareness. Just maybe not publicly for everything.
I think that's a good way to go. But that brings up a privacy issue. Deborah, do you have any input on that with regard to NFTs? Or
I have been a full participant in being a buyer of NFTs in the Hedera space. I'm like full on in that community. And the last 2 months has been a whirlwind. And I've had to take my privacy hat off in order to participate, as at the constant data collection of people's accounts, their names, their how much they're going to be spending on the NFTs, because it's all manual, right? And we're trusting one another that they're not going to take our our email addresses, our personal information and misuse it. So it's very not professional right now in terms of being professionalized and having major processes in place that prevent, misuses of your information. It shouldn't be collected at all or seen by human eyes. So I'm really excited that the wallets are coming to market, new marketplaces are being built, and I'm testing all of them out, and they're all doing a really good job, like especially the new ones and the new iterations coming out. I've never before in my life, and I've been in tech for a long time, have I ever been using like beta tools with real personal data. If anything, I've always been, shouting from the rooftops within corporations that when you're testing data, you need to use masking services and you need to de-identify or use dummy data and never use live data has been the mantra I've been living. I've been telling everybody. So this is different. This is new. There's a lot of, we're not doing things in the normal way because the community is is so excited for NFTs that we're willing to almost have more risk in the short term, knowing that we're going in the long term, we're building for this 100-year company. We're all behind the Hedera mission. And we've just been really lucky so far that there have been very few scams, and the community looks out for one another. But what we're going to be seeing, I think, is HashAxis, Hashpack, Hashport, everybody in the space is building security in. I've had personal discussions with May and the Hashpack team. Even got my fiance, who's a hacker, to kind of stop some traffic using like Burp Suite to understand like how some of the traffic is being the transactions are working, and are they secure. And so like we're dabbling in the space, and what I'm so enthused by is that it seems everybody's thinking in these terms. They're thinking about risk, they're thinking about security, they're thinking about how do we make sure people have ownership over their own identity, and all of that. So that was a long-winded way of just trying to connect what I'm seeing experientially of kind of the community versus the technologists who are building new tech for the community. And I'm just excited about the future.
Well, I think that goes back to what Dante HashAxis was talking about in terms of having the platform now, and then going to more of a trustless solution as the platform develops. Isn't that correct, Dante?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. My chief information security officer is actually an officer in the Navy, and he does cybersecurity for the Navy, actually in the Navy for the European, basically connects with America. So basically for NATO. And I debated HashAxis almost didn't come out at all, because I had to really fight with him and debate with him, because his whole thing was, well, until you have these tools, right, wallet partners that can securely connect to the site, you're basically just asking the community to trust that when they send you funds, they're either going to get their NFT or they're going to get their money back, and that sort of defeats the entire purpose. And I'm fully understand that, and I fully understand the apprehension that may exist around that. But the alternative was to sit in stagnation and have no marketplace and have nothing happening in the community, nothing moving us forward. So we figured, I'm going to be very loud about the fact that this is a beta. I'm not going to let anyone mistake this for production ready software. And I'm going to be very loud about the fact that all these transactions are happening on the mainnet. And so the community can choose, do they want to exercise that trust or not? In the future, though, as we move into the broader community, if we really want to compete with organizations like OpenSea, that's not going to be an option, right? We have to have more wallet partners that are building integrations, and we're so grateful to have Hashback respond to that need, because ultimately, without a wallet partner on the other end, we can't exist, right? The current way that we're doing this is not sustainable. 90% of our support requests are people who have, in some way, shape, or form, mistyped their memo, right? And it would be so great if they could just connect their wallet, click buy, see what they're going to get, and have that be seamless, right? So that's what we're working towards, and we appreciate, again, the trust and helping us test the beta, and we will make sure to give you the best experience possible.
Well, that's really good information, and since we're such a small community and we look out for each other, I think that the beta that you're doing now is going to be something that you can build off of. But I'd like to also say hello to May Chang of Hashpack. How are you, May?
I'm very good. I was able to make it. Yeah, I think that the big story here for us as a community is that we're very small and we're very tight-knit, and we're very open to trying new things and supporting each other. And I think that that's fantastic. HashAxis here has been extremely collaborative with us, and we've been working together for, I think, a month or two, and sharing our beta products with each other and trying to make sure that everybody is on board so that we can put out a good product. And speaking to what they said about their beta product, and speaking to what Deborah said about privacy and how it's kind of, you're doing weird things with real information that you shouldn't be in a beta system. We here, the people on this call, are pioneers, right? We're here breaking things, we're paving new roads, and we are setting standards. And, when I see a product like HashAxis come out and have the sort of prescience to address those issues that are in the space right now with privacy, with account information. And sure, you can't do everything you want to in the correct way because that infrastructure isn't built right now. But we can start making things and in the process make those standards and make sure everyone builds properly from here on out, because we're the pioneers, people are going to be following us, so we'd better set a good example.
I really like what you said. That pioneering spirit is really all over Hedera, and because HashAxis, you have listened to the community and brought an NFT marketplace, a global crypto collectibles marketplace to us, and the activity on it is amazing. I don't know what your mint rate is, but it seems like every few seconds another creator is minting something on HashAxis.
Yeah, it's very high. The adoption has been very outstanding. To be honest with you, I did not expect it to take off that quickly. I think we tweeted that within the first 96 hours of launch, we had already been responsible for over 1,000 NFTs that didn't exist before. So we gave ourselves a pat on the back for that, and I would expect that number is well over 2,000 by now. And what I want to sort of touch on really quickly is that these NFTs, the assets and the media associated with them, they're not just hosted on our servers, right? I've seen actually some projects on OpenSea where the image somehow got hosted on Amazon or Google Cloud. And so whatever organization is paying that hosting bill, right, if they stop, at some point those assets may just stop loading altogether, right? You may go to load the NFT and it never loads again. Our system is integrated with IPFS. If you don't know what IPFS is, go check them out. I think that stands for Interplanetary File System, which is kind of a funny name. But what that means is it's going to decentralize your file across hundreds or maybe even thousands of computers. If you've ever used a torrent system, you may be familiar with the way that torrenting breaks down a file and recomposes it later on the other end when it's requested. IPFS also is integrated with Filecoin, right? So if you use a free service and your file is not pinned, IPFS has a process that's called garbage collection, meaning if your file goes unpinned for a certain amount of time, it will be deleted, right? So everything that you're minting right now with us is being pinned. We have a commitment from Filecoin to continue that pinning. And so, but it's not free, right? So eventually there will be a cost to hosting all of these files. And that's why we didn't go to market with a totally free solution. We got a little bit of feedback that says, hey, if you can mint for, a lesser fee, why aren't you? Or why is this other organization or tool able to do it for free? Ultimately, that's why, right? Because they're sort of gambling with your asset that it may or may not be pinned in the future. And we just weren't willing to do that. And we think overall, most of you are willing to pay the 5 HBAR to know that your asset is going to be pinned.
No, I don't think your fees. I mean, everybody has to have some development money, and I don't think the fees of Hedera should break anybody's wallet. And 10, I saw it's like 10 HBARs and things like that. So I think the community in general should know that things cost money, as you said. Servers are very expensive, and you have to just know that that's part of the development.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really like, actually, and I've just been having to click around the website in the background while listening to you talk, which has been great. And there is actually a pricing page. So if anybody's interested, I love the graphic that you've put up there. It looks like, you've broken down all the fee allocation So if anybody's wondering what that money's for, what those HBAR are for, it's really clear where that's going by the looks of it. So I think that's great, in terms of transparency and what you're using it for.
And I think that what Dante said here, right, about IPFS and pinning, this shows that this project is being very responsible and thinking about the future. And this is something that a lot of crypto, not just in Hedera, but also Ethereum and other spaces, they kind of don't think that far ahead, and they don't wonder, well, where is my data really being stored? And the fact that Dante's thought about this and also built a business model to address this means that, he's in for the long run, right? He's not just here to make a quick buck, and then if your files disappear in 5 years, that's your problem. I applaud Dante for coming out and saying that, because I love to hear about projects that think that far ahead. It's a really good sign.
I think we're hoping to be able to pass on our NFTs to our children and grandchildren, aren't we?
Right, and that's a good point that I'll touch on as well. If you want your NFT to be survivable for 100 years or 200 years, or well past my lifetime, or maybe well past even the lifetime of HashAxis itself, you actually get a CID for your own NFT file, right? So that CID follows the token wherever it goes. The CID is how IPFS and Filecoin identify your file. So if at any point you become the new owner of an NFT or the original creator of the NFT, and I'm long gone and dead and done, you can still pin your own file with that CID. You would just use Filecoin to do it, right? So, and this is one of the things that Limon was very adamant about, integrating with Filecoin and using that to store your files. Originally, we were going to use the Hedera file system, but it was actually Hedera themselves that recommended, no, be open to a better solution if it's out there. And at the time, Filecoin just presented a more robust solution for that. So yeah, be mindful of your CIDs. If you buy a new token, maybe write it down somewhere so that your children and grandchildren can continue to pin that NFT if you feel it's worthy of succession.
So Dante, may I ask you a technical question? Do you run your own IPFS node, or do you use a service like NFT.storage?
No, we don't run our own. We don't run our own node. We use a service, and it's I believe it's called Estuary.
Well, that's great. I wanted to let a community member ask a question or comment. So, Jordan, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Deborah. I just have it, not Deborah, sorry, Elizabeth. Sorry, it's been a long day. Let's see. So I had a question when you guys were talking about creating original content. And I know I've been in contact with your HashAxis regarding Zards for the basically like Pokemon NFTs, working on creating those. And for now, simply they're being given out completely for free because of the licensing issue, like you were talking about. And I'm very well aware and actually working with Nintendo on getting them licensed. So, and I know we've talked about getting on HashAxis at one point. What would your thoughts be on a creator who does have technically licensed content by somebody like Nintendo or Disney, posting completely free NFTs that are airdrops on your site?
Yeah, if you have a license, right? So the only way that we would, by the way, we don't actually delete, right? We don't delete anything. We just, when things go down, we are just omitting them from our site. They're still out there on the Hashgraph. They're still out there on IPFS. If we get some sort of legal order from someone's lawyer that says, hey, this is copyright infringement, we demand you take it down, what we do is we omit it from our website. But if you have a license, you shouldn't get that type of order. And we're completely open to you minting whatever you want. Again, we're not here to really police that, but we are here to sort of protect ourselves from any sort of liability. And to your point, to your feedback, maybe I can get a feature improvement to add some sort of system where if you have a license, maybe there's a way you can upload it to your profile to prevent you from getting caught up in that flagging system. Thank you for that.
Perfect.
Quite useful to have the license information actually as part of the metadata of the NFT. I know with whether or not they're free or you charge them for them, copyright basically says that the license to distribute in any way belongs to the originator. So yeah, just be careful with that.
Yeah, that will all be, as soon as they are actually approved through Nintendo, which may take months or years. They're very, very stingy with IP. But I mean, it's in the works. So like for now, everything will still be 1 HBAR for a Zard. Or sorry, not 1 HBAR, 0 HBARs for a Zard. Yeah, so as soon as it is actually licensed, they will all be very well documented within the metadata in terms of like the IP that's associated with it. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say one last thing, if I can. For now, the Zards do all say within the metadata that it is not able to be sold for more than 0 HBAR, as per my lawyer. So, yeah, just a heads up on that. Nobody sells Zards for HBAR because that's not legal. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. Don?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to this topic around IP. I think we see it as a big growth opportunity for our broader community is how we can bring in new IP issuers who are then going to be leveraging NFTs for engaging with their communities. So obviously, I'm sure many of you saw our announcement with AR Rahman, but those types of opportunities to bring in people who are content creators themselves, whether it's in the music space. I think one of the things that's really exciting, and I want to kind of use as a point of encouragement for those people building tooling and capabilities here, is even today, like, any brand you talk to, any opportunity we're looking at supporting, they often look to these types of tools like Hashpack, like HashAxis as what makes their decision easier to come and build on Hedera, bringing their community, bringing their user base to it. So I really just wanted to add that as well. That, we're excited to see those new IP and communities coming to Hedera, and also call out that it is, entirely the stuff that the community here is doing that's really giving the infrastructure necessary to support their issuance to Hedera as well.
It's a very good point, and it's a whole other world when you're talking about intellectual IP. Pixel Rug, hello, how are you?
Very good. How's everybody doing?
Fine, thank you.
I had a question for HashAxis. First off, it's been so incredible to watch the marketplace come online. And I think it's just great that creators now have another outlet to get things out there and get people trading things back and forth. I think it's great. I was curious I think that something I've been thinking about as we maybe see more marketplaces opening up and everything like that, as a team operating a marketplace on Hedera and around these talks of like intellectual property and everything like that. For example, when I'm selling Pixel Rug and, it's bought and sold on one market, bought and sold on another, I'm just curious to kind of the thought that's being put into, authenticating whether something's genuine on a marketplace, what marketplaces are going to be able to do to ensure that they're selling something that's authentic, or creators being able to be verified or something like that. And I think it all goes back to, maybe we're familiar with the videos of Lehman saying there will be a blue check by something in the metaverse to know that it's authentic. And that obviously would take a lot. But starting at the beginning, it's like I'm curious to think of what things could be put in place to ensure that people are buying something genuine,
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and I'll tie it in back to what Don was saying. In addition to founding HashAxis, prior to this, and currently, I'm actually chief operating officer at a production company in LA called Blank Square Productions. And there we work with all the major labels, Warner, Sony, etc., and some of the largest music artists, Alicia Keys, Lil Wayne, Russ, Nicki Minaj, etc. And so part of this, the goal here we're not really here to monetize the Hedera community or the traditional crypto community at all. Our goal is really those larger brands, and that's a win-win for everyone, including the Hedera ecosystem as a whole. Because if Ariana Grande posts that she minted an NFT on HashAxis, people are going to forget all about Bored Ape Yacht Club on OpenSea, right? There's going to be hundreds of thousands of Ariana Grande fans or whoever it may be, who flood to this new thing, whatever it is, and they'll go through the learning process. And I think at some point in that learning process, we need to educate people about the importance of the collection ID, because that will be the single most important thing in identifying, does this come from where it's supposed to, right? Because if whoever your source of truth is says, this is my collection, now you know what number to look for. And maybe we have to make this a little bit less techy, right? So that it's not a long string of 9 or 10 numbers. But on the back end, we will check that, did this NFT come from this collection? And if it did, we can verify it as that. And if it didn't, then there just won't be any verification, right? Because we don't want to gatekeep. Again, we don't want to be gatekeeping what people mint or don't mint. But verifications can be driven based on, is this from the original collection, right? And then the owner of that collection can publicly display, hey, this is my collection, and anything minted outside of this is not my collection. Or if they have 10 or 100, you'd be able to list them all and say, hey, these are all my official collections, and anything outside of this is not official. And that's a really easy way that we could power verification on individual NFTs.
I think that's great. And I think just as a follow-up question is, I think that, I guess depending on the roadmap for HashAxis, for NFTs that are, maybe minted elsewhere, bought and sold on one marketplace, and then maybe on another chain, it's really interesting to think how each of those marketplaces will be able to ensure that something is authentic, and then in which the platforms they use it on, for instance, like someone wants to use their pixel rug somewhere, ensuring when people are in that little metaverse space or whatever it is, that they're looking at a genuine one. I think that there's going to be so many interesting things that are going to be happening. And it's going to be really interesting to see how marketplaces and creators work together to figure out, how do we give people that kind of authentic sale and that genuine thing of maybe something that wasn't minted on HashAxis, but outside of HashAxis or on another marketplace or what have you.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Just not to get too technical here, but regardless of where you mint, right? Whether you mint with us or with any other minting tool out there, with the exception of the ones that are creating fungible tokens, anything that's minting according to the proper Hedera documentation is going to give you a collection ID, right? So you don't need to go through us specifically to get one of those. And then when you go to port over to another chain, maybe you want to port backwards over to Ethereum, you're going to get wrapped in something. But that's just a wrapper. That wrapper will still contain the original information of the NFT, which will also include that collection ID. So ultimately, these collection IDs are going wherever these NFT goes, and the serial numbers as well. So there will be a way programmatically to figure that out. But obviously, as the developers in the community build out these checks and balances, I'm sure it'll be centered around having your collection IDs and your serial numbers properly configured.
Fascinating. Is the collection ID proprietary to NFTs on Hedera?
I'm not sure. I would imagine so, because of the structure of it's essentially an account ID, but it's related to a non-fungible token. So they have a similar structure that I haven't seen anywhere else. So I would imagine so. I'll leave that to the Hedera developers to answer.
Yeah, I was just going to say you're absolutely right. The token ID and the serial numbers are unique.
That's okay. Well, I'd like to get a couple more community members because a lot of people are requesting to speak. So go ahead, H. Barmery.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys for bringing me up, and awesome to hear HashAxis and everything that you guys are doing over there. I love your guys' website, and Hashpack with the wallet is definitely really nice to be able to use and see the NFTs. My question would be more for HashAxis, but I guess Hashpack too. A lot of the value right now that seems to be coming out of NFTs is done or tied to, I should say, rarity, and people want verified rarity. Is there anything that you guys are planning on making that would tie into the collections that you could prove how rare something would be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that the solution to that is going to be in Hedera rolling out a HIP specific to NFT metadata. I know there's already been a lot of debate around the best way to do this. We rolled out with the most simplistic way possible that merely includes name, description, the link to the asset where it's hosted, and the serial number itself. But that metadata could be expanded to include different properties, such as rarity. It's just we don't actually have a a proper documentation for NFT metadata, right? As May said, we're pioneering this, right? We're making it up as we go, and that's what the Hedera improvement HIPs are for. So there will come a consensus around that. And if you have ideas, definitely voice them to the developers in the community. My team, May's team, Exact Wallet. Get your ideas out there so that as we develop a new metadata protocol and structure, syntax basically for what type of information we're going to include. Rarity could be something that we want to include, but we would have to be more specific. You know, what is rarity driven based on? Is it based on color? Is it based on shape? Right now, rarity, the strongest way to get to rarity would be to limit the supply of your collection, right? But we see on OpenSea they have all these other metadata properties. A lot of that may turn out to be noise, but there is something to having an additional way to filter rarity within a collection. I can say for as of now, the easiest way to do it would be to only mint a limited number of a specific thing into your collection, and then describe in the description field that, okay, I'm only going to mint, this is a collection of max supply 100, but I'm only going to mint 10 red, and I'm only going to mint 2 green. And so then by default, green becomes more rare than red. Obviously, there needs to be a better way to do this with metadata in the future. We don't have it yet, but we're working on it.
My response to this, I think that Dante had a very good take on it. I think that if we're talking about rarity, you might also be referring to where different parts of the NFT, like the combinatorial NFTs, where you have like sunglasses and other accessories, and some of those accessories are more rare than others, and then those are all part of the metadata, right? The number one thing, if you're trying to put out a token with rarities and special things in it, is make sure that it's compliant at a base level with the standards that are appearing in the space. So make sure that it's compliant with HashAxis's basic metadata, and make sure that it's compliant with Hashpack so that at least it shows up. And then if you want to add in different fields and different types and make your NFT fancy and splendid and all of that, do it. And if you make a standard that is flexible that other people can use, right? And then you bind together as a community and you make a group of NFTs together with that standard. And then now you have not just your project, but another project and a whole bunch of other people, and they're putting stuff together that have all these rarities and all of these special traits in it. That makes it easy for Hashpack and HashAxis and all the marketplaces to build that. And then you build a standard, and then everyone can use it. So my suggestion to you is make it flexible, and then talk with us, and we can work together to make it work.
Thank you, May. Lance, do you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. Just a comment and a question for Dante. First of all, just wanted to say excellent job on the marketplace. I know it's just in beta, and I know you're waiting for Hash Connect, but you really have put up a really nice user experience. I definitely went to the site, wanted to try it out, wanted to buy 1 or 2 NFTs and see how it went. And before I knew, I had 6 of them. So maybe it's a little too good for now, but I appreciate that. I did have one question for you, though. You mentioned, Ariana Grande or some other big star, tweeting out, "Hey, I'm minting NFTs on Hedera." Can't wait for that day. Going to be so excited when that sort of stuff is happening on a regular basis. But I did just want to ask, right now, and probably even when we have Hash Connect up and running, it's still going to be a bit of a learning curve. And someone's going to have a Hedera wallet, and they're going to have to own some HBAR, at least in your beta form of your website now, and probably with Hash Connect as well. Is there any thought to really trying to remove some of the friction and welcome a broader audience? So when those types of things are happening and that type of adoption is happening, I don't know what it would be, if it would be pay with fiat, maybe even if you had to pay a little bit more with fiat. Or right through the website, being able to establish a wallet and buy some HBAR through a trusted third party. But are there any processes or anything in your roadmap that's really going to help take this technology and bring it to like the masses, bring it to a broader audience, and make it really easy so there isn't such a learning curve?
Yeah. So, with respect to, I'll just rule out what there's not. So with respect to fiat, we don't have any plans to accept fiat for NFTs. That opens up a whole can of worms around all the problems that come with traditional payment methods that we came to crypto to avoid, right? We don't want to deal with chargebacks and refunds and all that sort of noise. But I do fully understand that the average Ariana Grande fan is not going to know how to buy HBAR and set up a Hashpack wallet and jump through all these hoops to get the NFT. So there will have to be some level of education for new people who are new to crypto entirely. But if you look across the market, OpenSea is unapologetic about the fact that you got to figure it out, right? You got to figure out how to get MetaMask, right? You got to figure out how to get some Ethereum. So that will be a lot easier once HBAR is on more platforms that are more mainstream, like Gemini, Coinbase, etc. But I know in Hashpack you can buy HBAR with MoonPay. So I think, wallets integrating quick HBAR buy options like that will definitely help with the adoption. And then it'll just be a matter of some sort of educational programming to the general population that brings them on board in a seamless way. I think if it's as simple as install this app and then buy this thing with fiat, and then you can log in with your app and interact with everything, which is exactly what Hash Connect's promises. I think that'll be enough that if you weren't going to be turned off on OpenSea, you won't be turned off on our platform or any other Hedera marketplace as well once that capability is in place.
Thank you, Dante. We're at the top of the hour. We're a little bit past it, but if you don't mind, I'll let one other question happen. Will you stay with us, Dante, for one other question?
Sure, no worries.
Oh, thank you. So let's see, Jim, you've been patient.
Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, everyone in the community. Dante, great to meet you. Good job. Yeah, really impressed with the work you guys have been doing. I did have a comment. It was actually to Deborah's point from about like 40 minutes ago, and it's I think beyond a few seconds. So I'm just going to leave it there. Maybe Elizabeth, we can surface this back at a different time. So I think this idea of like how can you do all this stuff yet be privacy preserving is one that I think we really need to. I think we need to kind of, and Don, I'm not sure if Don is still on or not, but I think this is something that requires some like plumbing in my mind at the community level, because I think we really don't want to leave it to every individual developer to kind of figure it out, because I think it's too important. And I have some ideas around this, but I'm just going to leave it at that, because I think there's a lot of really important concepts that you have to get into play. For instance, doing bulk NFTs, which I think has been requested many times. But also, like, how do you deal with key management? Because that's a big thing. Because I think that the other side of the fulcrum with this is usability, right? Privacy, usability. That they're hand in hand, but you don't really want to sacrifice one for the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other just question for you, Dante, is I'm sure you're aware with IPFS that the actual content is unencrypted. So even if you don't know the CID, the content identifier, you could probably figure out the hash. Do you have any concerns about that?
So currently, our assumption is that people are distributing content that was intended to be public. We haven't thought of any use cases where someone would want to be distributing private content over IPFS. But according to the IPFS documentation, the procedure that they would like you to follow is to encrypt that content prior to distributing it. And then when it's reassembled on the other end, whoever the intended recipient was or yourself would have the ability to decrypt it. We haven't tested any of that because NFTs are sort of public by nature, and most of the things that happen on the Hashgraph are public by nature. But I think it's a conversation worth having, and I'd love to bring it up again when we have more time.
Yeah. But by the way, I think what you described though is a best practice. I think that kind of, I don't mean to be a broken record or I guess endless TikTok. That kind of goes back to how you manage your keys, because that's exactly, I think, the approach. And by the way, we're big proponents of IPFS. It's just that it's not like a silver bullet, and people think it's just because it's decentralized, it's unencrypted, but that really isn't the case.
I think in general, this Spaces has brought up the need to have another space on users developing in beta environments and taking care of their keys and things like that. I really do appreciate that Don was here from the foundation, and Christian Hasker made it in the house for the last half of the talk, and that everyone joined us in. May, you were welcome as always, and Jacob from HashPack. We look forward to all your progress. And Dante Alston, thank you so much for coming and speaking with the community. You're a big part of the community now, and we really, really appreciate you coming. Do you have any final words for the community, Dante?
The one thing I will do is put a little bit of a fire under the HBAR Foundation. We could really use their support because when these requests to build out new features, give us bulk minting, give us Hash Connect, to be frank, these things are quite expensive to implement from a development and from a technology standpoint. So any support that we could get from the foundation would be appreciated. And the community, the best way that you guys can help us is obviously continue using the platform, but also if you like the work we're doing, just give us a shout out to the HBAR Foundation so that maybe we might be considered for their grant program at some point in the future.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, Dante, but Shane Higgins was in the audience, the CEO of the HBAR Foundation earlier. So I'm going to take that as a good sign.
Yeah, I did. I noticed he was there. So that is a good sign for me.
So I'm going to end this space, and I really look forward to experiencing all your good news, Dante. And I thank everyone for coming. Coinman, hello. And Deborah Farber, thank you so much for talking. And Slim and everybody else that's in the audience, thanks a lot. And I'll end this, Tom, thank you. I'll end this space as we always do with Hello Future. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.